Well, what about the statement in the affidavit for search warrant that Winka the Wonder Dog is 98% reliable? That brings me to the second thing I want to talk about. Let's consider making a Franks versus Delaware attack on the truthfulness of those representations in the affidavit for search warrant. Remember, Franks versus Delaware is the case that says that if there are statements that are recklessly or made in reckless disregard of the truth or are false in the affidavit for search warrant, and the search warrant is deficient to establish probable cause, when those statements are set aside, then suppression is in order. And cases subsequent to Franks have established that if there are misleading omissions from the affidavit that likewise have the effect of misleading the magistrate, then so too suppression is in order. And again, a Franks motion is a good motion to make because Leon's good faith exception to the exclusionary rule does not protect Franks situations. So how do we make the Franks attack on the affidavit for a search warrant? Really, we need the same records that we need to successfully attack the reliability of the alert of the dog on cross-examination. And this isn't strictly a cross-examination question. We're going to use those records to make a substantial preliminary showing under Franks of a falsehood, reckless statement, or material omission in the affidavit. Then we're going to use the records to prove up that violation on a leading direct examination of the handler. I remind us all that Federal Rule of 611C allows us to lead the handler as an adverse party. That then brings us to the fun and value of these records for cross-examination or for establishing a Franks violation, because when you get these records, you find the creativity that the handler often uses to describe what is a find and what is not a find. For instance, here's a K-9 narcotics search form on Winka the Wonder Dog, where she alerts on the scent of drugs on the left back fender and an area between the seats. However, no drugs were found. Now, do they count that as an indication with no drugs found?
No.
Look under the yellow part. No. They count it as an indication with no drugs found. Or with drugs found, excuse me. Why? If you look at the last sentence here, because it is believed that drugs may have been transported in the plastic tub. So whether it's a find or not depends upon the sheer speculation of the biased handler. Here's another K-9 narcotics search form that we got on Winka the Wonder Dog, where Winka is exposed to a black bag and a blue bag, and she alerts on the black bag twice, but no drugs are found in the black bag. Drugs are in fact found in the blue bag. Now, do they count that as an indication with no drugs found? No, even though no drugs were found in the black bag. They count it as an indication with drugs found? Yes. Why? Because if you look at the last sentence here, it says the black bag had clothing that looked to have been worn and was traveling with the blue bag. As you can see, the handler gets very creative with how he keeps the batting average of his best friend. Sometimes he's willing to find a find depending on whichever way the wind blows. Here's another K-9 search form where they go in and they find some cash on the floor of an apartment. So they want to find out if there is drugs on the money, or if the money is associated with drugs in any way. So they hide the money in a file drawer, and then they ask Winka to look for it. Winka indicated on the file drawer on the north side of the file room. A check was made and nothing was found. Thereafter, Winka indicated on the scent of drugs on a file drawer on the south side of the room. Now, do they count that as an indication with no drugs found? No. Do they count it as an indication with no drugs found on one occasion and an indication with drugs found on another occasion? No, they just count it as an indication with drugs found. Why? Because if you look here at the bottom, the best friend of Winka took a lighter and placed it on the floor where the money was originally found. I was able to determine that the air coming into the room was hitting the floor where the money was placed and going across the room to the north side where the file drawers are located, this being the location that Winka first alerted on. So if we get such information, it's valuable for cross-examination, and it shows you just how much fun you can have exposing the way they keep statistics on their best friend. Question: what happened was that Winka was exposed to a black bag and a blue bag, correct? Correct. Question: she alerted on a black bag for the scent of drugs, correct? Answer: correct. But no drugs were found in the black bag, correct? Answer: correct. 10 ounces were found in the blue bag, correct? Well, that's right. Question: so in the bag she alerted on no drugs were found, that's right. One question: would you put these down in your computation as an accurate hit by the dog? Answer: well, of course I would. Even though it was on the wrong bag, my opinion, it was on the right bag. If you get the records and do the math, you can see the curious mathematics. Let me try to take questions at the end, please. You can see the curious mathematics by which they come up with these astronomically high reliability records. Here's a canine search form where Winka the Wonder Dog is exposed to 1,000 lockers, 500 in the high school, 500 in the middle school. She alerts on 11 lockers. No drugs are found. Now, how does the scorekeeper figure that in to Winka's batting average? Question: in those 1,000 lockers, she indicated on a total of 11, correct? That's right. Drugs were not found in any of the lockers, correct? Answer: well, that's true. Question: and at the top of the canine search form, you have written indication with no drugs found. Yes, correct? That's right. And when you factor that canine search form on the maze lockers into your calculation, you count it as 1 incorrect alert rather than 11 incorrect alerts. Of course, everybody knows that's how you figure 11 strikeouts in a batting average.